Oregon State is making a change with its head football coach. Trent Bray fired after an 0-7 start to the season. Scott Barnes will be joining me to talk about it, tell us what he was thinking, what happens next for Oregon State. Make sure you subscribe. You can share this with friends and family, and tell me in the comment section what Oregon State should do next. Scott Barnes, Athletic Director, Oregon State, joining us now. Can you take us through kind of how you arrived at the decision to relieve your coach of his duties?
Yeah, not easily. This is a first-time head coach who got thrown in. When you think back, John, we didn't know what direction we're headed yet. We didn't have a conference. We didn't have a really understanding of where it'd be. And obviously, as I thought about what we handed him and where we have been going here, it evolved. Ultimately, obviously, with the Wake Forest loss, it came to a head. But we had been meeting often over the last several weeks, and in the process, just observing the trajectory of the program. And in the end, I wasn't comfortable feeling like as we launch into a new conference, as we think about this university, our fan base, student athletes, that it was headed the right direction in the short term, but also thinking in the long term, and what we need as a standard, and how to get there, and felt like a different direction was needed because of that.
Was it looking around the stadium on Saturday and seeing the energy? Was it a culmination of several weeks? What's the tipping point in your mind?
Yeah, I think it is a culmination. When you think about how the season set up, we knew that first half would be tough. We know that we had one of the toughest strength of schedules in America. And so as you start to glean adjustments that are made and improvements, which we saw some improvements, but then we saw some step backs. It's really hard to be at number 5 Oregon or at Texas Tech and really glean a ton out of those in terms of adjustments and improvements. But we saw some ebb and flow of that, but it wasn't consistent. And so, again, I use the term evolved as I thought about the body of work, and we got towards the second half and saw some, just really disappointing losses that could have been had different outcomes. It stacked, and sort of the body of work brought me to the decision. And John, today we're not a very patient group, right? We see firings after 2 or 3 games. For me, I was going to be methodical. Again, this is a first-time head coach growing into his role, thinking through that, thinking of the difficulty of the schedule, and thinking about the runway we have. We've got a bunch of runway in front of us in terms of all the time we need in the search process.
Can you give us an idea of the financial impact here? Because you never want to fire a coach. It means, hey, maybe we made a bad hire, or maybe this wasn't the right guy, or maybe he wasn't ready to be a head coach. But the financial impact for Oregon State, you've got to be focused on money, given the position that you're in, without media rights revenue coming in the way it used to. How much did that weigh in being patient and methodical?
Yeah, it has to. Being good stewards of the funds that we have, particularly at a time when we're seeing conference distributions dissipate for us, and the challenges we have, it had to play a role. And certainly, I'm grateful that we were able to figure that out, and had some new dollars that came into play to help move that. So that had to be part, not all, but part of the decision-making process.
All right. So new dollars, does this mean, did a donor step in and say, hey, I want to help you with this? Or what do you mean there?
Yeah, no, I don't want to be too cryptic. Yes, we have folks that were able to help in really just elevating our football program towards making sure we had enough rev share money moving forward, the search process, and certainly the buyout, all of that included.
Sometimes, good people, good coaches just aren't head coaches. And I wondered that with Trent Bray, at different times, he wasn't all that comfortable with media or boosters and the recruiting piece. And then, he seemed to want to roll his sleeves up and be the defensive coordinator. Were you talking with him about those things as it was unfolding?
Yeah, as you look back, and I've been in the business a long time. I've had 5 Division I football hires, all have ascended to Power 5 positions, head coaching positions, except this one. And John, they were all coordinators, and the difference between perhaps those hires and this one was that Trent didn't embrace the enterprise as a whole. The CEO seat and the enterprise and the tough decisions. A lot of those, all the coordinators are work in progress, but you see an appetite for wanting to take on the tough decisions, wanting to command the enterprise. And I didn't see that. At the same time, I do want to say this about Trent. He, incredible pro. In my conversation with him this morning, we went in to talk to the team together, and he was all about the Beavers, all about their success in the future, and thankful for the opportunity. Couldn't have been more eloquent in his delivery and heartfelt. And so he is a good man. He's going to be a Beaver, obviously forever. He has that loyalty, and I want to shout out to him because how he's handled this very early transition has been top notch.
Was it ever on the table to maybe demote him to D coordinator? I mean, you're not losing a head coach here. You're just losing a head coach. You're losing a D coordinator as well. Was there ever a thought to try to convince him, hey, maybe this isn't for you, or can you even do that in the middle of a season?
No, I think that's just incredibly disruptive, for my opinion only. So that really didn't come into play. And moving forward, as you think about the new head coach, you want to give that head coach every opportunity to succeed, which means the ability and the flexibility to hire who they want to hire in the roles. And we'll lock arms with whoever our new head coach is in that process. But I want to give that person the freedom to do that.
You've got Rob Akey taking over in an interim basis. Why him, and how much autonomy will he have with what he does with the rest of the staff?
Yeah, no, I met with him shortly after Trent this morning, and why him? Because he's been in the seat. He's been that CEO, albeit at Idaho. But they were, he had success there. He's been in the NFL. He's been a coordinator. And so when I looked across the landscape of our staff, and he was an easy choice for that, and he's embraced it. He's a very energetic guy. He will bring juice to the room. He's commands respect. He got a hug from every player as they filed out of the auditorium this morning. He is close to Trent, and obviously has great respect for Trent, and mentioned that as well. But so he's the guy, and I have confidence in him, and I shared with him today. Look, this is his program for the next, if you want to throw in the bye weeks, 7 weeks, and I want to give him the autonomy to make decisions that he needs to make to put this in the best place and to get back on track.
There's a sliding scale of a point of no return where, keeping your head coach becomes more costly than firing him. From an NIL perspective, from a fundraising season ticket holder perspective, where are you? How does this impact sort of what you want to do next year as you head into the new World Pac-12 in 26?
Yeah, I think, the impact is yet to be determined, but making a change gives us every opportunity to regain momentum. And that's what this is about right now, is regaining momentum and being ready for the new Pac-12. When you think about NIL, the transfer portal, and those things, they all go with that. But we will be ready to sell that. And I think back to last time we hired in 48 hours because we had a portal that was a lot earlier, and our coach made the decision right at the end of the season. Portal now is later. It's we've got plenty of runway to both create our plan to retain student athletes and to go after new student athletes in the portal.
You know, I've known ADs who will always keep a short list of coaches they want to talk with. Do you have one in your filing cabinet drawer somewhere? That you
I do, but that's been updated.
Yeah.
So it has, and yes, I think if you're been in this business enough years, you know that you better have that ready and ready to go.
What kind of coach are you looking for? What kind of traits are you looking for?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Obviously, the foundation has to start with impeccable integrity and character, aligned with our values here at Oregon State. The right fit for this place. We talk about a lot, but the things that I think about differently than I did a few years ago include the connection that a coach has with a student athlete. Is so important in today's free agent sort of mindset. That connection is really important. A successful recruiting record, and whether you're a coordinator or a head coach, we can find that out. Have you been successful in today's marketplace with NIL, with rev share? How have you enhanced where you are in today's new market with recruiting? I like the West Coast ties. I really do, and we'll make that an emphasis in terms of what we're looking for. And then we need somebody to be able to command the enterprise, and you can get that, as I have several times before, from a coordinator or a head coach. But we're going to dig deep on that and make sure we get that right.
Hiring committee in these days, or am I looking at the hiring committee?
I've never had, John, a hiring committee in all my hires, but I'm going to have one this time. Because we have time, and so I'm going to put a select group of folks together. Haven't officially done that yet, but we will do that this time. And again, I think that really has to do with bringing a different set of eyes to my decisions. I think keeping all of us accountable is great, and then the runway we have makes it feasible to do that.
So are we talking about maybe a committee that has Oregon State stakeholders on it, or are we talking about a search firm?
Yeah, no, two things. So we will hire a search firm, but we will also have a internal committee, probably made up of some staff and some external stakeholders.
Okay.
And that committee will work simultaneously with the search firm to bring all this together.
Unless I'm missing something in your career, you've never had to unwind a hire in football.
No.
And that can't feel good to you. And, how hard was that for you? And, as you go to Saturday night, you're thinking, all right, I've got to do this.
Yeah. John, a friend reminded me this morning that you don't regret hires, you regret the outcomes. Right. And so I don't regret the hire. I want to say that about Trent. And I appreciate him being thrown into the fray and working his tail off to try to get something done for us. So that's really important. And then the outcome. I'm sorry. You remind me your question again.
Yeah, just how did it feel to you to have to unwind it?
So it's tough. It's tough. It's you're dealing with people's trajectory in their career. You look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, this next round, what can I do better? Because it didn't work. And so even given the circumstances, we didn't have a conference, we had very short window, all that. Hey, that aside, what can I do better? And in the process. So it comes with a measure of accountability and reflection in terms of how to maybe do it a little differently or a little better. And that's sort of where I sit in this particular at this particular time. Yeah.
But finally, the meeting with players, any inclination, are these guys going to band together and keep playing? Are they going to scatter? They've got options now that they never had before. And certainly, we're watching players do what's best for themselves.
Yeah, it's a tough time. It's, we've opened the barn door for all sorts of movement and that free agent mentality I mentioned. And so that's why the connection with the coach is so important, and retaining and having enough dollars to do that. I really appreciated Rob Akey's address. We had Trent in this morning, and he said goodbye in such a professional way. My message was, look, change is tough, and the only way to really respond to it is jump in, be ready, and use this as an opportunity. Where is your opportunity as a team and an individual to create new opportunities? So in this day and age, we'll see some student athletes transfer. We would have anyway, and so let's just deal with that. Let's create some momentum out of this. Make sure we're doing everything we can, and then we'll go from there. But there isn't a program in America that's not going to see a bunch of change every year now with the portal. What I like, though, is I like the fact that we've gone from 2 portals to 1. We've shortened it. Over 80% of your student athletes transfer in the first week. So why have a 30 or 45-day portal? So those are good measures to take in the process. And we'll just keep connected to our student athletes, gain some momentum here. This place hasn't changed. The head coach will, but this place hasn't changed. There's a lot of reasons why student athletes came here and stay here. And those reasons are still here.
Can you anything you can do to make this a better job? I know the things that appeal to coaches are support, resources, the new conference. It's tricky, but you've been here with Gary Anderson, walking out, and you had to make a hire after that, and you brought in Jonathan Smith. So, anything you can do to make this a more attractive job? Because I think you did some of those things back in Smith's time.
Yeah, well, I want to say first that this will be the first time probably in our history that we have had a athletic program, and specifically a football program, that will be the first quartile in operations, and our goal is first quartile in revenue share, including salary and all that. So we're in a much different place than we've ever been in our history, where we've always been at the bottom in terms of resources, and now we're fighting to stay at the top or to be at the top. And so that in and of itself, coupled with the staff that we have, the salary pool for the staff at this level, the facilities and other things, make this a really good job at this level, because you're not having to climb over a bunch of top 10, top 20 programs necessarily, and you've got the resources now to do some really remarkable things. And there's a pathway to the CFP right through this conference. If you win this conference, you're going to the CFP in most years. And so those are all signs and indications that this is a really good job, and that we'll get some really good interest in this job.
All right. Finally, when you make the hire, you mentioned it was a 48-hour window. Did it feel dicey to you? Maybe it's the right thing to do then, but in the back of your mind, are you going, these are different times, this is tricky, you're playing an independent schedule, this is not a guy who had been in charge? Any red flags in the back of your mind that you were kind of fingers crossed, knocking on woods, hoping would work out?
No, not red flags, but look, when you hire a coordinator, you are taking a risk, right? You always are when you hire a coordinator. So at the time, a guy that understood our culture, our place, had an unbelievable connection with the student athlete, still does. I mean, one of the best I've ever seen. And those things matter in today's marketplace. We didn't get some of the other things, but those things matter. So again, no regrets at all in the hire, only regrets in the outcome. And now we move on and look at this next phase as an opportunity.